Alright, Master Mason Note, we're tearing it up tonight, here Sunday, August 2nd, doing it up tonight. Had a pretty full log on the Facebook model for the class thesis, or the way you want to be able to economically engineer the conservation information to specific people's timelines. How you can adjust each step, M1, M2, M3 here, is generally one of those things. I can pack certain ones together, create multi-universes, kind of stick my finger in the water, and, generate enough information off of a few of the hold systems that I have and the way I want to integrate and build each of them, given the certain information as it's presented to me, given a YouTube or Google algorithm that defines the system, and how I want to supercompute that XYZ magnetic flow in a superconductor, the way information and everything, dark energy, is to 100% or within timelines of the given heat, light, or sound, friction, even if it's temperature, to generate electricity, and say it's a plasma. Call that whole operation a vacuum. That's the tread line. Pretty socialist comparatively to a capitalist. The capital form on that's going to be stonemason, Freemason, whatever that XYZ is, that correlates to the wiggly squiggly line that is time, and the differential between a carpenter, a factory mason, a soldier, a sentinel. Any of the hands Vishnu or the other one's going to smack the crap out of you with. Kind of above that causal level, you can work through the gates of generals and Newton and be able to explain that. Hop the Jaeger, kind of touch that game board a little bit and say, from the Horseman's Knight's Tour or Death's Gambit platform, I can always revert back to that, or -1 to that from this move in the operation. Call it orders of E1 or I, sigma n whatever, sigma sum k, I in the E position, a 2 to the third to the I at the fourth of time space. Of those two systems together give me a frame of X and Y to limit that calc inside of that thermaling operation, and saying the difference of this stone, the stack of stone, a block during the day or multiple days, is that force bar in physics. And that's going to be your double slit particle 50 cal experiment. The sniper has to move, obviously. That's a topology of that wiggly squiggly line in physics, given the waterfall and time on the mountain or at sea level or under it, right? How that's going to -1 to +1, top of the mountain or underwater. They run a lot of the same system sometimes than -1, prepping that stuff. At Bowser's house. Pretty much the same deal. Not necessarily that this one or that one or this other one or this one. It gets into a lot of that workforce, apprentice, boss. It's an interview of the physics against the MG mass gap. Who's running that operation at the tightest diamond shitting dragon's asshole tight level of flight decks, and what planes are going off, who's doing serviceability rotations and screw bolt turnovers, and when the boss is supposed to be there, and checking the list to make sure the boss was there, and the sign-offs, and therefore the result in physics is more applicable to the NASA white hat bolt falling 60 feet in the 11 bullets for their plan, or however their basic training for that function is conducted. Sometimes that's an 8th grade science class and lab journals in the overall function of manic bipolar variation of dissecting a frog today, and determining that to be the vet or the doctor you go in, given the topology of the area, the resources, the time, the grocery store, people feeding, because otherwise you're growing corn, and army stuff about some free-ranging countries just trying to pull some stuff about bringing in money, which is fine. Honestly, as long as X is fine. People to people, it's all going to be. But as long as you don't red dawn that stuff coming in, causing problems. things will be fine here. There's no reason you should. Things are in order right now. They are in their box in Hancock for the most part, short of a workforce. And if you ain't got that fucking program figured out, not in my house, not in my army, not happening. IP man versus the general. No, not on this. It's not about. And eventually it becomes that, and you miss that play sometimes with Veer, and you forget about the Sharps Crew White Team engineering board for the question is a match. Maybe you can't yell at you if you didn't know. They don't understand that physics in the form, didn't explain it to you in the event, didn't take the time after certain events where it happened, how to plan and define the sequence differently or how it's going to do that. And generally I buck a lot of that because I'm a Jaeger and I just take that stuff on. Start grabbing on until it's hard. That's what, a lot of it is. And some cowboy at that hard level, most of them coming up, just try and fall off the mountain. Something comes up on it. It was Special Force, but this is the way it is now. And, you integrate that into there. Obviously, there's some buck players, and the choices of who I am, the strongest Drago-looking Cupid out there that's about to beat the shit out of me and make me great so I can love her, apparently. This is the line. You understand physics. Undermine that shit with Sun Tzu, man. An X and Y would give you that range if it was coming at you like a heat-seeking thermodynamics guy on the floor that's about to hammer you for, whatever. E7, pawn E4, pawn E7 on the board. I mean, you could start the Horseman tour that way. That's the first piece that's going to move. Any one of, if you go E7, that'll be the first one to an E8 or 6 or 5. I think it's 6 or something like that. It might be up 1 or something. Anyways. And that's the Knight's Tour and the very, very, very first choice of the 2 moves you could make in all the variable games. And then you could say the gambit is actually for me and you as a player. This general's table about resources and time and the engineering of playing the Grandmaster's board all the way to the back of the board, given the limitations of the best game on those sequences all the way out as 2 Grandmasters would slam together, 2 black holes, pulling together to generally, honestly kind of figure out what kind of gravity waves played against them in the system around them. Rev 7 day, General Rev 7 day around you. This is a timed L8ing, warping, coming back in time, model judgment day on those numbers. Baseball is watching one today, right? Pitcher catching it in there. We got the square on the number. I don't need a judge. I don't need a umpire if it didn't hit the box. But that's not the game of baseball. That's not balls flying at you at 90 miles an hour and trying to guess that ball, that thing, and where you could put that for the entropy of the training. But costs and money and things and stuff and, the finicky nature of the universe and what works, what guarantees high success and trying to cut off on STEM testing to guarantee that without undermining and corrupting or... You get some mercury on aluminum or something like that, and all kinds of stuff happens. Wrong plant in the wrong area. Farmer John, corn, everybody's dead. Because you were playing Bunny Conquest Hunter out there just smashing everybody's house. Got to remember. And a lot of that is coming on CNN, but that still might matter given other faculties later, right? It's... Well, I thought it was a great idea until you see some of the chaos behind some of that, and... Not to say that's a reason to dissuade you sometimes. We'll go back to the Sentinel shooting a little girl in the face with a bread basket because she might be a terrorist in that area, and the long-term goals of how long it takes to train a soldier, let alone the needs of a child in that region for who they are, what the officer is for the timeline. Can it be done? Sarge, absolutely, but that doesn't necessarily mean that right now in this firefight with that system, doesn't... What do? Pull the entropy on the -1, you take that marshmallow home, you make sure everybody has a bad day about that. Sitting on a pile of marshmallow like Warren Buffett, you tell him. Can't buy happiness, but it can buy me a boat. For me, you take over the Hancock, Delhi, Homestead, Binghamton area with the 10 mil. For which units you're going to build the HTT drywall computer in the box in a chair, and who does it for $10, $15, $20 an hour, depending on how good they are. and why we define that as the model in government. Of course, cut mine off, maybe $1 million of that 10, maybe more. If I need to take one for wave collapse, or whoever's got one sitting around in their house and they say they got problems, we're going to take care of it with that because I'm cleared on mine. Put it right back. I'll give you a challenge, another version of the Horseman Code for some kid to crack when they're trying to run it on the first time. And if they do, they make that gap, give it to them. Tell them to reset, do it again. You know, in the room, we all might come out with the top Ranger book, and I'll AR-15 you in the dark, right? You know, because Terminator's AR-15 steel metallurgy comparatively to the quantum operating speed of that system and how fast it can do. From understanding the first limitations and what's left from the oxidized state in terms of the Damascus steel it's folding to make it pretty much just top bars Terminator around the hydraulic pump that is its leg walking comparatively to us trying to jump around, you know, doing the monkey do off the building with a car that drops down and kills it. Back to what I was saying here, you know, your home models to, you know, workforce programs, to find a lot of that in the books of the mechanic, the stonemason, a teacher that gives ASE certifications in mechanics in the stone mill variable because it's, you know, V8 Chevy or two pro vets that's been there for 10 years and they're doing their thing and they see some problems on the board. And you help them with that mastery. You give them the card. You make sure you have it there handy. And then, like I said, all of our Ranger books, you know, and at the end of the day, the AR-15 test on that is which one's the best. We'll take a vote, but understand yours individually still might come up to be the right answer one day. Might later be the best thing inside of the sequence. We could fold this all together and make it whatever, but
the #1 song in the USA,
you know, we can vote on that and say that's the codex. We'll keep somebody on it, keep it going around. You know, hopefully one day I'll have a kid if something ever happens to me and be able to watch that. Hey, this is your daddy. Uncle Sam, right? Operator Sam, don't be afraid to hop in that thing when you need to. You're right. You're right. And if you're right, it'll be left. I'll get it. So hopefully we can dust that stuff off. Like I said, I encourage motivation. I work a lot of rock. I work a lot of stones. I work a lot of those numbers that come along those stones. I've taken along a lot of the ketters that come on with that. A lot of the adjusting frames. It's not just a problem that they're out there. It's the problem that it's misunderstood of how to combine Newton and Punkeur's problem, or beef, or special relativity and Einstein's beef, his own problem, and making the jump between the train on the tracks and jumping out of that one, and whoever's next problem is to that speed on that quantum operator. You know, that lightning bolt of inspiration of taking that jump in a video and having to figure out a way to paper that thing and get a test that'll do it, like the moon lensing a brighter effect under its horizon that eclipses that system, and you know what that represents by physics and known physics that people understand by that system, and tides and so on and so forth. Those are those quantum operations that say they can't be defined, that says, well, there was actually more water on that side of it, and if you left the rocket on full throttle there, comparatively to a skipjack, or, you know, the way the moon was right there at an angle, the ass end of the spacecraft in there, so that's the only way you can alien green light that thing, and the spacecraft hits the right direction. OP calculation. And it's honestly easier to put the sensor on it and maybe a few extra angles on it, you know, and do your thing on it. A few extra people, you know, you try to Jaeger that off yourself. It'd be a lot. That's a big town. Try to hold my own against an army. Oh, that's some John Wick stuff, man. I don't have the resources for it, but like I said, if you did, you come back with them, you get some tags, you do your thing, you do your time, you do your 4, even if it's basic infantry. I'm going to take most of it, hopefully sit up underneath a drill that knows what they're doing, how to camp on this information, or where to utilize one of the pieces that can use this type of mathematics, psychology, engineering board with frames of Ranger books and field theories and operational timelines of reviews and incident reports, inventory forms, resume decks for sweeten in the pot AX for that kid and make sure they get it on that spot, and it's a little more than just a miserable spot for them. That's some good bad right there, and you're going to have to understand that's... Catch you on the next one.